It's a big, noisy universe of stocks out there. Welcome to Goodbye or Goodbye. Our goal to help cut through that noise to navigate the best moves for your portfolio. Today, we're zeroing in on drug makers and device manufacturers. Which is worth adding to your portfolio? I'm here with David Nierengarten. He's Wedbush Managing Director of Equity Research covering healthcare. Thanks for being here, David. Appreciate it. So these names are not necessarily household names, but they're interesting ones to dig into, right? And so your buy stock today is Argenx. This is about a $32 billion market cap company. It's up about 5% over the past 12 months, but it's up 40% year to date. So really has seen a climb there. So let's talk about why you like it here. Its main franchise is something called Vyvgart. So talk to me about that and why it is attractive.
Vyvgart is a drug that treats myasthenia gravis, and it's really had a great launch so far. So last quarter was over $400 million in sales, continuing to grow very rapidly, and with future opportunities for growth, both in its core indication, which is what's called generalized myasthenia gravis, is neuromuscular disease, and future outgrowth from that initial launch.
Well, let's talk about that future outgrowth for a minute. I guess first of all, how many people are afflicted with that disorder that you mentioned, and then what are the other possible indications?
There are about 17,000 patients with generalized myasthenia gravis, and then the additional indications that can be added on to that they're planning to launch into are ocular myasthenia gravis, obviously afflicting the eyes, and a what's called seronegative myasthenia gravis, which is just a different blood test, for the disease. That could grow the market to about 65,000 patients, so room for significant patient growth, again, in this core myasthenia gravis franchise. And then they have other indications that they're looking to expand the drug into, including their most recent approved indication, which is another rare neuromuscular disease called CIDP.
Gotcha. And then future growth over the next few years, I guess, would be pinned to those additional indications?
Exactly. There's those additional indications, and then they do have additional phase 3 studies reading out in what's called Sjogren's syndrome, which is another autoimmune disorder, and myositis, which is another neuromuscular disorder that they're planning to run these studies in and hopefully get approved in those indications also.
No, I'm just curious, are these considered sort of orphan diseases? Is this a situation where it doesn't affect that many people, but it is a high-cost drug and in demand for these people because they can be debilitating, what they have?
So first of all, yes, the diseases are debilitating. They're all orphan diseases, which is defined as under 250,000 patients in the United States. It is a higher priced drug, $225,000 a year for myasthenia gravis and $450,000 a year for CIDP patients. That's because it's dosed more frequently in those patients. So it is a high revenue per patient opportunity.
Gotcha. So we always like to talk about what is a potential risk for these good buys. And in this case, it has to do with that launch of that additional indication for CIDP.
Yeah, so for CIDP in the next 6 months, we're hoping to see a J-code, which is just an easy way for doctors to get reimbursed for the drug. And so, but in the interim 6 months, there could be a risk that the launch underperforms a little bit because the initial myasthenia gravis launch did so well, people's expectations are quite high for CIDP.
Gotcha, as evidenced by what we've seen in the stock this year to date.
Exactly.
So let's get to the one that you think folks should avoid. This is called Novocure. This is about a $2 billion, under $2 billion market cap. And unlike the other chart, this stock has seen a big slump over the past 12 months, although it has bounced back some year to date. So let's dig into this one. You think that recent rally is not sustainable. Why not?
I think it's going to fade for a couple of reasons. The growth in the U.S. hasn't existed for years, first off, so they're dependent on ex-U.S. growth. Ex-U.S. growth has been choppy, and I think they're reaching saturation in those international markets that they've entered, like France and Germany and Japan.
And just for folks who are not familiar with it, it's a device to treat brain cancers called Optune. And that's the one where we've not seen that growth in the U.S. that you're talking about.
Yeah, to step back, it's a device. It goes on a patient's head. It is approved in brain cancer in the United States and, of course, elsewhere that I just mentioned. And they're looking to expand it into different opportunities too, but that's its initial indication. Gotcha.
And you don't think that we're going to see meaningful revenue from that launch?
No, it's interesting. I think they've hit saturation in the United States. They hit saturation at similar patient penetrations ex-US, so I think they'll hit that in France too, based on the numbers that they posted up recently.
And sort of in contrast with what we were just talking about, in terms of expanded indications for other types of cancer, for example, is there any kind of opportunity there?
So they have been approved to treat brain metastases caused by lung cancer. I do think that opportunity, though, is quite limited. It's limited in both number of patients I think who will be willing to undergo the treatment, and also the number of patients who, frankly, are healthy enough and would benefit from a prolonged treatment cycle. I think there are very few of those.
Gotcha. And then finally, also, they're testing it for pancreatic cancer as well, and you don't think that that is going to work?
I've said it before, I think that study will fail. It's going to read out at the end of the year, and I don't think it's going to work, and I do think that's a significant risk for the stock from these levels.
Gotcha. So when we talk about a potential risk to the upside for something like Novocure, it's simply that you could be wrong on that one, right? That that it could work.
Yeah, that's a big risk to this thesis, is that the pancreatic cancer works against my expectations. Also, if they do manage to get sales that I don't expect for those brain metastases in lung cancer patients, that could be a risk to my comment on it, avoiding the stock.
But for right now, not worth stepping in on those chances.
Not in my opinion.
David, thanks so much. Really interesting to bring us some different stuff that we don't talk about every day. Appreciate you coming in for this. And thank you so much for watching Goodbye or Goodbye. We'll be bringing you new episodes 3 times a week at 3:30 p.m. Eastern.